You just released the video for Banana Laffy Taffy. And it definitely has a clear, whimsical aesthetic. What was your vision for that video?
Well, my director Hans Elder, we had the idea of just being in a white space. My reference for that was it was a Lil Yachty video, that they used different shots of different like what can you do in a white space? What all can you execute with just me and a piano? You know, that was pretty much the premise of and the cream background and the cream piano as well. I was just trying to kind of give like a different approach to the sound that what we think the sound would look like is a different look than what it would sound like, what you would think.
Yeah, it was very fun. Definitely had a vibe to it. And the song even is,
Thank you.
playful, but you have a deeper messages kind of sprinkled in it about hustling and reclaiming jazz. What was that duality that you wanted to
Yes.
express in the song?
I think the duality was I kind of wanted to have like I listened to a lot of Billy Paul, I listened to a lot of Marvin Gaye, but some of my favorite records are like the Marvin Gaye Vulnerable, is it Vulnerable album? It's like all just like big band production. And also Billy Paul's first record, live at the class I can't remember the name of the album, Cadillac Club, I think it was called. We know him for Mrs. Jones. This is Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones. And so we don't really hear him in too much of a jazz context, but he sung in his own voice. It typically in jazz, a lot of the young kids, they try to emulate older singers without really kind of having their own voice. And like, what is your own voice? What do you actually sound like? Um, so that's why I was just trying to bring like a different kind of energy to it. So I start by saying, what do you see, what you get? In my mind, the money spent, count up by the days, the hustle's the same, the bag is claimed, the wounded can't complain. These like little riddles are kind of just like kind of rooted in different things of like, the underdog. The whole premise of the banana Laffy Taffy is the underdog. Like when you go for candy, you don't pick the banana flavored candy ever. I mean, I don't know about you, but me, if you're gonna do, I'm gonna go for the strawberry. I'm gonna go for like the more desirable things. But little that they know that banana flavor is probably one of their best flavors. So that's how I kind of see how like the life and also like fame, right? Fame, quote unquote fame or clout when it comes to music and artists. Like it's really a pay to play kind of game. It's not so much about the talent. It's not if you've studied, it's not if you have an expansive music palette or if you know every genre or whatever it may be. It's all about if you have money, if you have privilege to be able to pay for, and if you pay to be on playlist. See is what you get. So that's kind of the whole premise of that. It also goes into back in the day, there were a lot of marijuana references before it was illegal. Even the whole premise of how marijuana is illegal was also based on black jazz musicians. So like if you go back to Cab Calloway, you go back into all the reefer records, and they're super whimsical and like very theatrical, and it was more of it kind of changed the way you perceived certain things that you were like, by laws or like, oh, it's illegal. But you hear a song like that, it's like, oh, okay, this is an interesting take on this thing that people say that is bad. So it was kind of a nod to that. Banana Raps, Banana Kush is all in once your friends done took. It means multiple things. It means like, okay, you're such a nice person that being a nice person, you always end up getting hurt by those that you love, because you always will feel like you're being taken advantage of. So you know, so this is kind of a duality that. But the premise of the whole song is the underdog.
And yeah, no, Banana Laffy Taffy is good. Do you like the banana runts too? Do you know those little fruit
I like the
candies?
banana runs.
Uh-huh.
I do know.
Uh-huh.
I do had them at that many times, but yeah, they are pretty good.
And how does
Yeah.
that story of the underdog, how does that represent you and your journey?
I feel like in a ways I am an underdog, just based off of how I've been trying to climb to get my music released and to get my music out there. Um, it's harder for artists that don't necessarily have the financial means to be able to shoot a music video. to be able to shoot music video, not just to shoot it, but also to market it, make the music. Let's talk about making the music. Like I make all my music. I'm an analog head, so I have a lot of outboard gear. I invested, tons of money into getting a microphone and getting an interface and getting a laptop and, studying in engineering school. I went to Full Sail University. But before that, I went to Puerto Rico and I studied in Caribbean music because I'm trying to get out of what I was born into. So I was really raised a gospel musician. So trying to break out of that mental, you kind of get kind of placed in a box when you're raised in a certain kind of way. So how do you break free? What does freedom look like? So yeah, I didn't have the funds to be able to really like market even this album the way I really wanted to. Like you need thousands of dollars, to be able to get a PR person. Nobody wants to talk about that. PR could be for 3 months, 4 months, five, $10,000. How do you pay for that? And you have bills, you have to pay for food, you have rent, and just for impressions for 10% of those people to be able to even it's a staggering block. So I feel blessed and honored to be able to have YouTube and and to be able to come around good people like yourself. And I found great management now, and I'm able to like, kind of move in a better way, but it's still a grind, it's still a hustle, and it's a lifelong journey. So, yeah, if I was rich, oh my God, Victoria, I could be on all the billboards. I already know where to go to buy the billboards. Like I would have my album in every record store. You know what I'm saying? I know how to make the things happen, but you need financial to make it happen. So
Like even when you get to one point, there's the next point, or there's
to
always
the next point.
something. But yeah, how does it feel to have your debut album out and be on Candid Records, which has such a history?
I feel honored. I feel grateful. I feel extremely grateful. Um, I feel happy to be able to debut my album to people, to like for you to be able to listen to it and for it to be a product that I can like kind of sell and hey, check this out. And I have such confidence in it that okay, you may not know me, I might not be Drake, but at the end of the day, if you listen to this, I feel like you probably gonna like it. So I just feel grateful and honored that I also had the great Terry Lynn Carrington. She's my A&R for Candid Records. And she was such a auntie to me. Um, she's the kind of person that puts people on. She's um, how do you say, like she's like the Yoda, really of popular music, of all music, I say. She knows everybody, and it's wonderful to be able to come across good people like her and to be able to have access to her to just to speak to her and to talk about music. And I had a wonderful A&R experience with her. We had lots of back and forth with this album about features, who should be on it, who shouldn't be on it. Um, all kind of things like, oh, this snare is a little too low. Oh, your vocals is a little too loud here. Just like little minute things that you need from someone else, to be able to really package up an album and for it to be listening to everyone, because after a while you get ear fatigue, so you need a good A&R. So I'm blessed to be able to have you know and Candid Records is myself, Malena Casado, and Morgan Guerin. We're like some of the first. Morgan was like the first one to release an album through them. So it's been very fun to have my friends along on the ride with me, and to be able to like for all of us to be able to play with each other. We're all on each other's albums.
Yeah, that's so cool. What a special thing to have that mentorship and that good legend walking alongside
Yes,
you. Yeah.
absolutely.
And
Yes.
I heard that you have 8 brothers and sisters and that you also just have a passion for collaboration and stuff. Anyway, do you think growing up with your siblings helped fuel that passion for collaboration, or how did that shape you as an artist?
You know, I think yes, but also just growing up in church. I was thankful to my mother that I grew up in a good church. Not everyone was able to have a good church experience. And a lot of times a bad church will leave someone so heartbroken and hurt that they will never go back. and relieve world trauma there. So I know that, and I am blessed. And I'll say in that way, I'm privileged to be able to have came up under a good church, because through the church, I was able to collaborate with so many musicians and like so many singers and so many artists and so many choirs. Like we would have guest churches to come. And my church was probably one of the first Black mega churches in Atlanta, Georgia, Mark Farmer Baptist Church. And we have some of the best gospel artists. So this is the thing, like I didn't grow up under a jazz umbrella. I would say that gospel is the root to all music. So I'm privileged to be able to say and know, I know exactly where this rhythm comes from. I know exactly where this swing comes from, where the blues comes from, and understanding that we didn't care. Black people did not categorize these things that back in the day people have categorized for us. But all of that is the root of the church. So by being able to grow up and go to jam sessions and go to choir rehearsals and meet so many different other musicians and play together, and like that was always the root of me. I didn't come from the like, let me just do everything myself. Oh, let me call John because John plays drums really dope. Oh, let me call Cynthia because she is a great, vocalist. Like, let me bring people together. I've always been a person to bring people together, and I think that's what we should do. And that's the essence of a true musician, is to be able to, you're gonna learn all these instruments, just play by yourself. That's not fun. you know, you're gonna surround yourself just around you, and you're just gonna just, what fun is that, to be able to just have everything for yourself. You don't have it to share, to share that. That's why I brought so many artists onto Jazz Money.
We're given our gifts to share them, right? And I always think of the
Yes.
parable of the talents. Like we're not meant to bury them every day.
Yes, we're not meant to bury them every day. Yes.
Yeah. And for you, just as you've grown in your artistry and experienced more of the industry,
Mhm.
how has your faith remained your foundation? And even, I know references to prayer are sprinkled throughout Jazz Money. Just how has it remained your foundation, and why is it important to you to still represent that even as you grow as an artist?
I mean, it's been difficult, especially like moving up to the northern states. I wasn't raised in New York, or I didn't really do trips to New York as growing up. Like I moved here, I was already an adult. So it was definitely a culture shock, just about how everybody wants the same thing and people are so desperate to get it that it will change them, you know. Um, so you have kind of like a lot of weird dark energy surrounded around this industry. So that can be kind of depressing, and it has been depressing to me, being able to go out and experience certain kinds of like, just non-communal moments. Just things is like, I need this, I deserve this, I've done this, and I haven't got that. You um, Trying to remove myself from that thinking, but also understanding like this is a journey, and I have to stay prayed up and remember where I came from for me to be able to stay sane. Because a lot of the amazing musicians, as they get older, they go crazy, either it's not drug abuse or, alcoholism, it's mental health. It could physically drive you crazy. So how can I not go crazy? I don't want to be in this industry. I don't want to be in this industry, 65 and feeling like, oh, I did this and this, and I didn't receive X, Y, and Z. I didn't receive a Grammy, or and feeling all of these different jaded feelings. I don't want to be jaded, and I've seen too many documentaries for me to be able to end up like that. I think that's how I look at it as a Gen Z, right? We have access to all of these videos, and millennials as well. We have access to all of these videos. We have access to Billie Holiday's documentary. There's this. You ever heard of the BT episode series called Unsung? You ever heard of that? Unsung. I used to listen. I loved that show. I used to watch it all the time. Like unparalleled. Like all of that. Like I was a huge, 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 huge Unsung fan. I would just study and just like see what I could learn from these stories, because there's no excuse for me to be able to go into that rabbit hole when many artists way before me have been through that similar thing and has always ended the same way. And still to this day is ending the same way. So it's difficulty to be able to release that, but also it comes from the music because the music is the most powerful thing. So we need better lyrics, we need better music, to be on the airways. That's why the marketing is that has to be our number one thing when it comes to, remembering, like, remember where you come from and focus on your marketing. AB, that's it.
Yeah, that branding and that message is so important. That's essential, sure. So
Yes, it is very
yeah.
essential. Yes.
Well, the project definitely celebrates Black women. What was just your intention in that, and why was that important to you to make that an element of the album?
Well, because this industry is hard on women in general, on all women, and especially for Black women. It's extremely hard. All of these are men-led spaces. These jam sessions are men-led spaces. And unfortunately, we're still in a day and age where male and female in that sense are is still we still treat each other differently. Men treat women differently when it comes to that, and men treat men differently, good or bad. It's not fair for women, period, in this industry. So I'm just trying to make sure that I do my part and just letting y'all know it's still not okay. It's still not good. It's still not good, bro. It's like, it's so much more better that we can do. I mean, of course, the pandemic messed a lot of that up when it came to community and jam sessions and to be able to come together like that is the epitome of a musician for me. I feel that's where you go to study. That's where you go to to learn and to thrive. And you go to these jam sessions. There's not a lot of women at these places. It's a bunch of dudes. And I don't know about you. I don't like to be around too many men. I'm like, all right, y'all. Like it's enough. It's enough for y'all. Like like where the ladies at? Where are the ladies at? And so, there's a lot of dope things happening in Brooklyn at Filthy Diamond. There's a women-led jam session that happens there, and all the ladies, they bring their own compositions and they're playing original tunes. That's a huge thing. Because me, I don't like to sit around and play covers all day. Absolutely not. So for there to be a women-led jam session, that's open to all, of course, but to be women-led and it feel comfortable for those to not be, to feel comfortable to be able to go into space and to be able to just be looked at as a musician, not so much as like, oh, she's fine, she what she got on, and it just goes into the human aspect of it. Um, so yeah, so that's why I kind of go so hard in my music about the education of like where we came from. When it goes down to Mama said, like I another privilege I would say I have that I have a good mama. We weren't rich. We didn't have, we're under middle class, but listen, I had a good mama and a good grandma and a good dad, father as well. Um, the things that my grandma have taught me, have really like, I listened, I was a listener, you know, um, just to learn how to cook clean, learn how to speak. How do you speak to a woman? How do learning how to understand and try to, um, do better always, within a man's self. Like, you know, um, mama said, just listen to your mama because once you get older, it's a different. It starts young. You got to start young. And so yeah, I had too many friends go down, either in jail or locked up. That's the only really place, where I'm from. Like, you going either gonna go to the military, you gonna find you a church, to work at, or you gonna go to jail, or you gonna be in the streets, or dead. There ain't too many options in that way, or play basketball. So, you know, I was smart enough to listen to my mama. So that's just an ode to my mom and grandma.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah, Mama said it was definitely a standout track to me. And yeah, as a woman, thank you. And I know Black women have it even harder than I do, so that's
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Do you have a favorite track that you would like to talk about or that like just one that
Um,
had kind of a cool story that or yeah.
I think maybe one of the deep cut, I call the deep cut records is Save the Children
Yeah.
on the Jazz Money album. I made that record maybe about 4 or 5 years ago because I used to live in Puerto Rico and I studied there at the Conservatory of Music, and also I studied at the Intermetro where I studied popular music. So I started to study a lot of different. I would say that school they were kind of predominantly on the jazz tip, or the North American jazz tip, and I was really there to learn Caribbean music, Afro Caribbean music. So I got to a lot of bomba, a lot of plena, a lot of samba, pagode, like just learning about basically learning about the Atlantic slave trade and learning about how all the rhythms came from Africa and how we just interpreted them differently. Like here, like for here in North America, a lot of the slave masters, they were not into, letting them play their instruments. So a lot of us here are just like, that's why a lot of the vocals, like if you look at anywhere, like you go to Brazil, they want to sound like North America. There's that gospel sound, right? And a lot of places, that's the sound we're known for our vocals. Say Puerto Rico or anywhere else in the Caribbean, they're known for the drumming. They're known for the rhythms. Like they have their rhythms like section out. For America, we have funk, we'll say funk, jazz, R&B, gospel, right? And it's funny because about four or five of them that I just named are probably about the same rhythm, all out of gospel, right? Like so how do you say, give me a R&B rhythm, give me a gospel rhythm, give me a blues rhythm? That's pretty much the same beat you're going to be playing. Like we don't have our rhythms categorized, you know, and the different parts of the like slave trade, they categorized, they kept a lot of their culture from West Africa and Ghana, and they're able to like, okay, this is one one go, this is a 2-3 clave, it's 3-2 clave, this is oye mula, this is different. There's so many different, so I learned a lot of different rhythms being in there. I was in a Brazilian class, so I learned about the different rhythms, the alfaya, and I just learned different rhythms, and I was so interested in just learning rhythm. Like, what is rhythm? Like, how can I be different in my music through rhythm? Even down to Banana Laffy Taffy, I would have been able to even do my verse in the way if I didn't have the understanding of rhythm that I do now because of what I learned from that, and also learned the bata. I took bata classes with the great Beto out of Puerto Rico. He has a great community center there where he teaches different um, Yoruba religion music. And I was just amazed just by the community there when it came to music about sharing information. They're very generous about sharing the information and making sure that you know where it came from. I think that's very important. There's not a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to like, oh, where this came from, where not. Everybody know where it is. Anybody can go there. You can go there. You can learn about and you're gonna learn it authentically, and you're gonna know the basics. And that's really all you need. And to understand what the instrument is, like the wooden bata, only men could use that, and because it's the shape of a woman, and only men could play a woman instrument shaped like a woman. And if you're not part of the religion, you don't use the wooden batas. You use the different material batas, and you need a cloth to go on top. It's all the different rules and like just culture that came behind these rhythms are, something that is beautiful and need to be shared with people of the North American, the North American people. Like we need to know these things. And so I got into a lot of rumba there. And that's where I learned rumba. And that's where the rhythm there is called rumba. And so I had some of my friends to come and play at Mio Solti, Ismael Consul, and Ismael Consul is the drummer for the great Ile, and she used to have a band called Calle Trece. So they were a big reggaeton band back in 2000s and stuff. Presidente, he's a big rapper and as well as Elay. She's like amazing. I played piano with her. I toured with her when I was in Puerto Rico. She's like folkloric, like alternative folkloric, like kind of a cross between a lot of different genres. And it's the most beautiful music. So you check it out. ILE is her name, Elay. Um, so yeah, there I just had a couple friends. I recorded that track at One Sound. Um, and one. The owner of that studio, his name is Matthew Burr. He used to play with Grace Potter, the drummer for Grace Potter. So that was, such a beautiful community that I built down there, and to be able to do that and have these different genres to be, matched, like even Matthew Burr, like you may just know him as, a psychedelic soul band, but he's recording Roomba in his studio and recording like folkloric, amazing like new wave folkloric music, with young people. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so that's the kind of the story behind Save the Children. Just the rhythms and stuff that led to making that track.
Yeah, even in doing my research, it's so neat how you bring your different influences together, and you have a gift for bringing people together.
Thank you for listening.
You're working now with Beyond the Bar. How is that just a way
Yes.
you're giving back through music?
I love working with this company. They're also based out of Philly, of course. They started here in Philly. Um, they have over maybe 115 different um, programs around all of Philadelphia, West, North, whatever like that. Um, so I pretty much teach all things that everything I know. I teach recording, I teach music production, teach the piano, and majority I teach how to use Logic. So I teach at a place near my house called JJC. It's like a juvenile detention center, and I go there every month and basically just teach them how to make a beat. A lot of them, they're recording students. They pretty much just know what to do. We get in there, grab your laptop, boom, they're going right to making beats, and we critique. We go from there and how to perfect a song, how to write a song. And I pretty much do that every Monday to like, throughout the week. And I go to different schools, different mastery schools here, and different homeless shelters. We also go to the prisons as well. They're an awesome organization beyond the bars. So yeah.